Welcome to Cheddar Big News. Today is Friday, February 1st, 2019. I'm Jill Wagner.
And I'm Hannah Doba. Cheddar Big News is your source for right now.
And now the big story is Mother Nature appears to be giving us a break to start February.
The Midwest is getting out of the freezer, and by the weekend, it could feel like the beginning of spring instead of the middle of winter. Temperatures will be in the 20s and 30s in most of the Midwest today, but seriously, when just a day earlier the mercury dipped below 20 degrees, that feels like a heat wave. And the warm-up cannot come soon enough. At least 21 people died as a result of the elements, and thousands of flights were delayed or canceled.
The East Coast will still be in the teens today, but the cold weather is certainly not as bad as it was in the middle of the country. One of the popular attractions in New York City is the iconic fountain in Bryant Park, and people can't seem to get enough of the ice sculpture it turns into when it gets below freezing. How cool is that?
It always looks beautiful, but the ice will turn to water again this weekend. A massive warm-up is coming. Some parts of the Midwest and East Coast are going to be in the 60s. Our partners at AccuWeather will have the full forecast in just a few minutes.
President Trump has now weighed in on the reported attack on Empire actor Jussie Smollett, calling the attack horrible and adding that it doesn't get any worse. The comments from the Oval Office came as the police in Chicago search for suspects. Smollett says he was confronted by two men early Tuesday morning. The men allegedly beat him, put a noose around his neck, and poured a substance on him, all while hurling racist and homophobic slurs and saying, "This is MAGA country." Police released surveillance images of people that they want to speak with. Officials now reveal the FBI is investigating a letter containing a white powder that was sent to the set of Empire in Chicago days before the attack. The letter prompted a response from the hazmat unit. It turned out to be aspirin. Meanwhile, Smollett's family released a statement yesterday saying Jussie is a warrior whose light cannot be dimmed. Make no mistake, words matter. Hateful words lead to hateful actions. Radical love is the only solution, but passivity will be our downfall.
Trump confidant Roger Stone faces a judge today, and it could mean this is the last time we hear from the outspoken, self-proclaimed dirty trickster. The appearance comes just 3 days after his not guilty plea on charges of obstruction, witness tampering, and lying to Congress. The president talked about Stone's arrest with the New York Times and told the paper he never discussed WikiLeaks with Stone and never instructed anyone with the campaign to talk to him either. Yesterday, Stone held a news conference where he said he would never testify against the president and proclaimed he has done nothing wrong.
Nobody directed me to do anything nor inquired. I did not coordinate anything with the Trump campaign or with WikiLeaks in terms of their disclosures. I had a tip, which turned out to be a very good one. I believe that in the current atmosphere, when one is accused of wrongdoing and one has no response, either is not available or doesn't comment, there is a presumption of guilt that perhaps is unfair but very real.
The federal judge in the case is expected to put a gag order in place that would prevent Stone from talking about the case in public. In a court filing yesterday, the Mueller team says it retrieved Stone's computer and other materials from his homes and offices.
It's getting real now in Hotlanta as the two football teams left standing get ready to take the field in the big game.
Super Bowl Sunday is 2 days away, folks. The Patriots and Rams are ready to go for the coast-to-coast championship game. The up-and-coming LA Rams look to unseat the perennial AFC champion, the Patriots, of course. Both starting quarterbacks are going into Sunday confident they have what it takes to win.
I think we're ready. You know, they've obviously been here, a handful of times and have guys that have won this game and have done it the right way and have that knowledge of how to do it the right way. But, still got to play a game on Sunday and we'll be ready.
I think we're a pretty balanced team now. So between offense, defense, special teams, I think all of us are in a position where we can make an impact on the game. We're going to have to. This is another team that has a good defense, a good offense, and good special teams. And that's why we're both playing in this game.
It's going to be quite the matchup. There are plenty of ways to watch the game. CBS is broadcasting the Super Bowl, but for you cord cutters out there, you can catch it on the CBS Sports app, Fubo TV, Hulu, YouTube TV, DirecTV Now, and others. We'll have much more on the big game throughout the day.
Saturday's Groundhog's Day, and for the 133rd year in a row, people will gather in Puxatawny, Pennsylvania to hear from a furry fortune teller.
That's right. The big question, of course, will Punxsutawney Phil see his shadow, or will we have an early spring? The good news for those caught in the polar vortex this week is that the weekend will bring higher temperatures into the 30s and 40s, and we're not talking negative 30s and 40s.
So the bad news is that Phil is likely to see his shadows. That means 6 more weeks of wintry weather. Phil usually sees his shadow. He's only not seen it 18 times in 122 recorded years. The science behind the tradition is questionable at best, but those in Phil's inner circle claim that his predictions are 100% accurate. The 2020 presidential race is heating up.
And J.D. Durkin is live on Capitol Hill with the very latest. Happy Friday morning, J.D.
That's right. Happy Friday morning to you as well, Hannah and Jill. You're exactly right. It is heating up, and thank God that something is heating up, because here in Washington, it is snowing outside, which I don't think is in the forecast where you both are up in New York. With regards to heating up, of course, we were talking about New Jersey Senator Cory Booker making it official today, unsurprisingly, of course, that he too is now throwing his hat officially into the 2020 ring and wants to become the nation's 46th president of the United States. Here's a look at the announcement video released by the Booker team just a short time ago.
I believe that we can build a country where no one is forgotten, no one is left behind, where parents can put food on the table, where there are good-paying jobs with good benefits in every neighborhood, where our criminal justice system keeps us safe instead of shuffling more children into cages and coffins. Together, America, we will rise.
All right, Hannah and Jill, so there's the New Jersey Senators. It's kind of striking a bit of a tone of optimism there, I would argue. It's been fascinating to watch how the different candidates have kind of prioritized their themes and their messaging early on. He becomes the 4th sitting United States Senator to either launch a full bid for the presidency or announce what's known as an exploratory committee, which is basically just an announcement before the official announcement. Of course, I also say it's unsurprising that Cory Booker would be running for president. We've known that he was going to be doing this for quite some time, in addition to high-profile campaign stops in recent weeks and months to places like South Carolina, New Hampshire, Iowa. By the way, you don't go to those states unless you're running for president. With regards to committee assignments also, a lot of people look back at his committee assignment onto Senate Foreign Relations in the last Congress and said that is largely an indicator to develop some foreign policy chops for a New Jersey senator. So the crowd continues to thicken, and it's only February. Hannah and Jill.
Right. On that note, J.D., Senator Booker now joins a crowded field, right? How do they compete for resources and endorsements now?
I mean, competing for resources is really the name of the game, and it is very, very difficult to do so. For instance, just a couple of weeks ago, I talked with one candidate or soon-to-be candidate for president. I won't say who it is, but this person told me that, look, when you talk about these key battleground states, what is so important is staffing. You want to hire political operatives in these states like Iowa and New Hampshire who have been through this before, who have hopefully worked for other successful presidential campaigns. So all of these candidates behind the scenes, the things we don't talk about and the images that you don't see, are them frantically trying to build offices, open up these doors, establish the ground game in those key states, and try and lock down necessary messaging. Also, with regards to Cory Booker, unsurprisingly, today is February 1st. It is the start of Black History Month, and you can see that it is a little bit of a through line through the 2.5-minute campaign video that he released earlier today. Look for his connection. You know, there was one line that really jumped out to me. He said, "I'm the only sitting U.S. senator who on weekends returns home to a low-income inner-city community." He still lives in Newark, New Jersey. Of course, he was formerly the mayor of that city. That's when I first met him and got to know him back around 2010 or so when I was in college. But in Essex County, New Jersey, where I'm born and raised, Cory Booker was remarkably well known because he was harnessing social media, the likes of which politicians simply didn't do. So he largely built his name through that. Kamala Harris, her kind of campaign pitch is tough, principled, and fearless, relying on her years as a prosecutor in San Francisco. We certainly know Kirsten Gillibrand is prioritizing female voters, and we certainly know that the women's vote is something that she is putting at the forefront of her campaign. And Elizabeth Warren, of course, hitting home the economic messaging of the wealth gap between the wealthiest Americans and Main Street. So already all these senators are kind of competing for these resources and having not messages that interfere with one another, but they're also trying to very clearly stick to their lanes early on. And we are certainly in for a remarkably long campaign season here, Hannah and Jill. It's only February 1st. We have a long, long way to go.
JD, thank you so much. We'll have more from Capitol Hill in the next half hour.
And next on Cheddar Big News, a preview of the opening bell on Wall Street.
Plus, did Amazon deliver? We take a look at the earnings for the world's top online retailer.
And forget